So I'd like us to focus perhaps first and foremost on this deal between the United States mining firm and Mali's government. Is it
Yeah.
happening? Is it not happening?
When you hear President Trump, I will always say this. When you hear President Trump talk about the policy of the U.S., you will imagine the U.S. is not doing business anywhere in the world. But I always warn people, business people look for the return. Where they see a return, they're going to jump in. It will probably happen because Mali, if you remember, had a fallout with Barrick Gold. And you remember last week we spoke about Barrick letting go of Mark Bristow, the South African who was the founder of Randgold. So this is a mine that used to be run by Barrick, I think, in collaboration with Anglo Gold Ashanti. And it was nationalized following its abandonment in 2022. So it's obviously a mine is a very difficult business to run, and maybe that's why it might take a while. But in the end, it's going to be about the country code that's permitting up to 30% ownership in new ventures while living in the standing tax break. So many investors are saying, well, even the Russian and Chinese are saying they are nervous about this. But where one investor sees too much risk, Thami, another company will see an opportunity, and that's where Flagship Gold Corp is finalizing this deal on Wednesday with the Malian government.
So, for all intents and purposes, they will be resuming production at Morila Gold Mine.
Yeah, but because the longer it stays, the more expensive it's going to become. Maintenance of mines is very costly. You need ventilation, since holes close up and then you have to resuscitate. So I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. But like I'm saying, when you are negotiating at national level and mining ministry level, there might be a delay here or there, but I don't see how they can walk away from this estimated 2.5 million ounces, in reserves. That's not something you walk away from in mining terms.
And let's focus on Botswana. We've been talking about them for quite a while now. And you'll remember last year there was a proposal that was put in place, a draft legislation to allow domestic ownership of mines should there be, foreign buyers interested. It looks like it's all systems go as far as Botswana ring fencing at least part ownership for local businesses.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, we're going to continue having the issue like we had with DBS, where companies are arguing with governments. Initially, previously it was the right to buy a 15% shareholding in any mining concession upon being licensed, but with the option for a higher stake. Now, the company, as the top producer of mines, said in a statement that they now require 24 local ownership. I think 24%, because often when you own more than 25%, you end up making it difficult for certain special resolutions to be concluded. Most resolutions would require 75% special resolutions. So the 24%, I think, is just to make sure there's enough ownership by local investors, but it still allows the larger shareholder to be able to take decisions so that you don't get undue delays in decision making, because it can be very costly. But as well as increasing this local ownership, the law is aiming to promote value-adding activities, beneficiation, and so on, to ensure that mining companies are getting involved in environmental rehabilitation or at least beneficiate whatever they are mining in Botswana.
And that is, of course, if the government itself chooses not to buy that stake, then it's got to go to a domestic company.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just keeping it inside in Botswana. And it looks unreasonable if you are used to just owning everything, Thami, but you can hear everywhere in the world. Even, after the U.S. government insisted that TikTok should be transferred to American investors, anything is possible in business today. There's a lot of local content, a lot of indigenization, a lot of nationalism in how companies are being run or licensed all over the world.
And I guess it's a brave new world for the likes of Ethiopia starting to finally, and I wonder, why has it taken so long for them to start trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area?
Yeah, it's non-tariff barriers, Thami. The road, there's a highway from Nairobi the capital of Kenya, to Addis Ababa. There is a railroad as well that connects the two countries, and Djibouti, which is the access to sea. So I think it has nothing other than political will and creating legislative and regulatory framework for the divvying, as they say in tax terms, the divvying, which means the sharing of customs. When you trade across borders, the customs that you share or that you levy are going to always be a source of contention. So the countries of Africa had been held back in that, if I can call it respectfully, small-mindedness of prioritizing customs instead of saying, come into our country and invest and we will benefit 10 times what we would benefit by just levying customs on what you do. So the infrastructure is there physically. The regional coordination with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is there, and Kenya has to recover because it's highly indebted, and the natural trading partner up north is Ethiopia.
And so there you have it. After 7 years after signing, this deal between Ethiopia and Kenya under the African Continental Free Trade Area now becoming a reality. Wrap up this afternoon, Victor, with great news again coming out of Egypt as far as their GDP is concerned.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive. 5% growth in today's environment is rare to come by, but African countries are always growing. And Egypt has been investing a lot in infrastructure, road infrastructure, port infrastructure, a bit of IT, and its financial sector being consolidated. They are expanding, going overseas with their pharmaceuticals and all that. So the fourth quarter of this fiscal year, 2024-25, is up from 2.4% growth last year. That is a huge, it's more than double. So the rebound is supported by stronger performance across tourism, non-oil manufacturing, communications, and information technology. There you have it. Companies like Orascom and all those are obviously part of this tourism with the return of tourism and travel, international travel after COVID lockdown. It's just an indication. But the government is also crediting itself for ongoing fiscal discipline and higher public investment for the sustenance of this momentum.
Really great momentum there for Egypt, seeing its fastest quarterly growth in 3 years. Victor Kgomoeswana, always a pleasure, and wishing you a splendid weekend ahead.
Have a good weekend, Thami.
Thank you. That's Victor Kgomoeswana, is author of Africa is Open for Business and Africa Bounces Back. He is the Executive Director for Marketing and Communication at the University of Limpopo, bringing you the top business stories on the African continent.